So, welcome to another episode of the CPI Thoughtcast. I'm here with David Katz from Wasteless, company I'm a big fan of. So I'm really glad that you've made it here. So just start off, tell us a little about yourself and a little bit more about Wasteless.
Well, thanks. Great being here in Düsseldorf, in basically the heart of retail this week. So Wasteless is a company that helps grocery retailers become a lot more profitable. And we do that with a very sustainable heart because we prevent food waste. So the issue is that supermarkets, wholesalers throw away a tremendous amount of money. I'm pretty sure we'll get into that in more detail over the course of the next couple of minutes. They throw away a tremendous amount of money, which is hurting their bottom line, but it's also depressing customers, and it's heaving records to the planet.
Yeah.
So preventing food waste by making the supermarket more profitable, and actually giving a jolt of pleasure, endorphin rush to customers.
Perfect. Love it. And how long has Wasteless been operating?
So we've been going for about 7 years. I joined the company basically like half a year after we started. We're actually, as of 22, we're really in market. We deploy artificial intelligence, to be more precise, because with a buzzword like this, you have to be precise.
Yeah.
We use reinforcement learning, meaning that our models have to be trained, and our models have to be trainable, and so that took a while.
Mm-hmm.
We've been really in market since 22, and we're for real since last year. And this year it's been taking off. So we have customers in 10 countries. We're rolling out in a couple of US retailers where we're deployed now in 200 stores.
Yeah.
Retailers that do over $10 billion US. We're active in 4 of Europe's biggest retailers. So it's been even though I always say there's no time to waste. We've had a bit of a time to actually take off, but now the traction is there.
Yeah, you've got to hit that inflection point where the technology's there, and
it's technology, but it's also the market and the market circumstances.
Right.
So back in the days, we were talking about dynamic pricing. No one really understood what it was.
Mm-hmm.
But now everyone is talking about inflation, price gouging, as well as extreme weather, the planet, pressure on supply chains. And suddenly retailers see that if you manage to sell what's already on your shelf, you can actually swat away a lot of those problems and make a lot of money, because food waste is really the last pile of cash that's still on the table.
Yeah, for sure. And where is the business based?
So we are. So the technology is out of Tel Aviv, and our commercial is out of Europe, and in the US out of the Midwest Pittsburgh area.
Excellent.
So I'm based in Amsterdam, and we are in a couple of German retailers. We're with France's biggest retailer. Amsterdam is a great place to actually to take on Europe and to help Europe leverage both their appetite for sustainable solutions as their appetite for profitable solutions that actually give better prices to customers. Because really, the customer, the shopper, that's really where it starts.
Yeah.
You can have a great solution, but if the consumer is not ready or doesn't understand it, then that's an uphill battle.
Yeah.
And consumers really get what it is to have a good deal.
Yeah.
So we're there.
Absolutely. So can you tell a bit more about your role and how you got involved with the business?
Yeah. So I used to be a publisher, and so I work for the biggest publishing company in the Netherlands. We actually purchased AC Nielsen. So people that sat across from me in my room were the people that actually purchased AC Nielsen during the century.
Right.
And I've been dealing with the internet ever since '95. First for a TV station, and then for business publications, and then for our data division. And what I really loved doing ever since I was mid-20s was to take an incumbent industry and see where new technologies, connected, digital, back then it was nothing, the cloud didn't exist yet, but how you can actually, with that perspective, transform existing industries and make them better and more sustainable financially as well as planet-wise. And I worked with one company that we did a big project with, and one of their engineers approached me a couple of years later. I had stayed in touch with him over LinkedIn, and he had just sold his IoT company to ABMF, to the biggest beer brewer in the world.
Man.
They had this little IoT device that sat on taps of bars and restaurants, and they could measure the flow of beer and measure waste and measure a good application of the keg, but also see industry trends, etc. I mean, they sold that for a substantial amount of money. Keep on forgetting how many zeros, but like a 100 million. How many? That's like a nine-figure number.
Okay.
And he then realized that it's all fine and dandy to make the biggest beer brewers in the world a lot richer, but there's bigger nuts to crack.
Okay.
And so he wanted to see what are the big problems in the world. Food waste obviously is a massive problem.
Yeah.
We now know that 40% of all the food produced in the world is never consumed. We now know that 11% of all greenhouse gas emissions are caused by wasted food.
Sure.
It's causing hunger, drought, erosion. It's no one really likes it.
Yeah.
There's not much to like. And they then realized that in supermarkets, food waste is caused predominantly by food running out of their expiration date. And when you're a data or food person and you hear that it's a data problem, you realize that maybe there's a data solution as well.
Yeah.
And that's when the idea was born, that using the expiration date to leverage consumer appetites to actually drive price sensitivity in a way that benefits all, there was something there. They had a beta. They approached me if I could introduce them to a couple of Dutch retailers. That wasn't that easy because retailers they have a full plate. They have it's an overextended pipeline, so it was very hard getting at these tables.
Yeah.
So I approached someone that I knew that was really well ingrained into the Dutch, especially the Dutch C-suite. And we did a roadshow back in March 2018. We saw 9 retailers, got a lot of love and 0 action. and that's so that took a while. Also because if you promise a retailer that you can make them a lot more profitable, their reaction will probably be, yeah, right.
0.
Yeah,
Sure.
I've got 350,000 people working for me. Why would you guys be able to do something that I can't myself?
Sure.
So, and then we had a couple of breaks where we could actually prove this in store. Because the only way to prove a retailer that there's improvement is if you actually can show it within its own demographics and their own assortment and their own POS and their own landscape.
Yeah.
So that's what we did.
So you talked a little bit about dealing with retailers in different geographic regions. Wasteless offers also quite a lot of value props from a revenue uplift perspective, bottom line improvement, the sustainability element you talk about. Is there differences between different regions on how retailers feel about that solution? What's the most important thing for them?
Yeah, money.
Okay.
So, and rightly so, because if you're a retailer and then you get out of bed in the morning to turn a profit.
Yeah.
But turning a profit is not just, it's not the only goal. It's a hell of a job to actually achieve that. You know, there's supply chain, and there's if you look at the US supermarket, there's 20,000 SKUs, and each of these SKUs has 20, 30, 100 items.
Yeah.
So it's a big beast,
Yeah.
big animal. So to turn a profit requires very commendable, very impressive balancing act. The only thing and they're doing a great job. I mean, getting food at your table, at my table, that's a tough one.
Yeah.
And food waste has long been considered the cost of doing business. It's just factored into the price we are paying when we buy flank steak. Probably 15 to 20% of the price of the flank steak is to cover the food waste.
Yeah.
Because if you're a volume business with tight margins, every flank steak you throw out, you have to sell another 20 probably to earn back that one that's been thrown out. So, and that's when we really got them to a lot of retailers to really get the hang of it, that actually you can have a great sustainability story that is true and it's not greenwashing, that your staff loves, that's actually rewarding your most loyal customers by giving them a lower price point for perfectly fresh fresh produce.
Yep.
And with increasing your margins by 15% with higher revenues.
Win-win-win.
There's quite a few things to like. But it sounds too good to be true. And the only way of proving ourselves right is to do that in the store.
Yeah.
And that takes a while because everyone wants to get onto the shelves.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of demand, there's not enough time. IT is overstretched as it is, but once you get there and once you get the numbers and then you see real love. You see real. It's not just the love of money. It's also the love of doing the right thing and doing good things in a better way.
Yeah, makes sense. Is there a really good example of that recently where you've worked with a customer and they've seen that impact and it's been like, whoa, this is a big deal?
A few dozen examples.
Oh, okay.
Lucky enough, all in various stages. But there's one retailer in the U.S. Midwest. We will be disclosing that soon. We're rolling them out to over 200 stores, and they're 10 billion turnover company.
Mm.
They do about 670 million in meat, and we're increasing the margins on our meat. We're projecting, based on the 50 stores that we already did, we're projecting there will be around $17 million additional margin, additional bottom line.
Wow.
So that's a great one. Here in Germany with Edeka, we're more than halving food waste in some retailers by growing margins, by having some items that we increase the margin on one item for over €1,000 per year.
Wow.
But it's not every item has that much price elasticity, etc. But if you show a couple of those, then you really have a business case.
Absolutely. Nice.
And also, especially in Europe, because you asked about geographies, in Europe there's ESG, there's CSRD, there's all these kind of financial regulations where really you don't get away with just spewing carbon gases.
Yeah.
So you really have to look at your business and at the business of your suppliers and your customers, how to reduce your carbon emissions.
Mm.
So that's an additional benefit.
Yeah, I see. So obviously there are all the benefits. What have been the biggest challenges? What barriers are in place today that is stopping this game everywhere?
There's a couple of balances, a couple of challenges. First of all, the fact that retailers are just such, it's Swiss clockwork. They are real machines, and it's all really well, it fits together.
Yeah.
So no one wants to tinker. Actually, it's a good question. if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And if you're not aware that your food system is really broken, then the urge to fix it is really not there.
Sure.
So the biggest challenge is to convince retailers that throwing away as much food waste as your profit margin, that you're throwing away the purchasing value of what you're throwing out equals your profit margin, then suddenly they understand it's broken. So that's been the biggest challenge. And then IT departments are overstretched, so getting onto a pipeline is important. And we overcame that by coming with a pared-down version of our system where we don't need IT integrations. So really nimble proof of concepts within a couple of days live in the store.
No integration.
No integration. Prove the numbers. Also show where the use case isn't ideal yet.
Mm-hmm.
And then make a business case for return on investment.
Yeah.
Once you do integrate. And that's been the inflection point.
Nice. Help me out a little bit with the technology because I've been thinking about this.
Yeah.
So obviously for a full rollout, you need integration into the POS system.
Yes.
And you're essentially dynamically pricing different products with different expiry dates. So a pint of milk might have a 2-day expiry date and it's at one price, and has a 10-day expiry date and it's another price. But those two products have got the same SKU number, right? How does that get reconciled out of the POS?
Yeah. So various ways, but we need to differentiate between vintages.
Yeah.
So a great example is Metro here in Germany, wholesale company. Here in Germany, they have 100. They do $5 billion turnover, 100 stores.
Yeah.
Large stores. All of their meat in their 27 countries has a new barcode. Has a barcode which is a QR code. And that QR code already contains the vintage, the expiration date. That's easy.
Got it.
Because then we can now tell them this flank steak in Singapore needs to be marked down by this and this percentage, because due to its expiration date, you have the risk of it not selling and being thrown out.
Yeah.
So that's the integrated side of it, and not all retailers have that. But here in Germany, with Edeka, for example, there's weighted products. Yep. Because of the weight, we know which products are on the shelf, and we drive the shop associates to the shelf to actually do the data gathering for us.
Mm.
It adds 5 or 10 minutes per day, and it can bring them hundreds of euros per SKU on an annual basis.
Mm-hmm.
So an entire shelf is 5 minutes or 10 minutes. So, but then they do the quantity check for us and the date check. So they tell us there's 5 items with a March 4th expiration date.
Mm-hmm.
And we immediately print a sticker with a new barcode that is then recognized at POS. So you don't need the integration for that.
Yeah.
It's a tweak. It's a workaround, mainly to prove the use case, because the business case is there.
Got it.
Yeah.
Yeah. That makes sense.
But this is a great question. So, and a lot of retailers will think, I don't have QR codes or 2D or data-enabled barcodes or whatever. But that's an obstacle you can overcome if the ROI is attractive.
Yeah. You'll pay.
So that's first more, 100 times over.
Yeah.
So that's the thing, is there's a million reasons not to do it. But it takes some courage and convincing to actually inside a retailer to say, okay, let's just imagine that it would work seamlessly. Now do a bit of a workaround, prove it, and then we can actually see if we can leverage this to the max.
Yeah.
What it will actually bring in terms of margins, revenues, sustainability, customer satisfaction.
Yeah.
Because consumers are being, like all over the world, they're not very happy with the price increases to say it mildly, and governments, by the same token, are invested. Like in Canada, government has a task force to look at what the couple of big retailers are actually doing.
Right. Wow.
So, and it'd be smart if a retailer actually preempts it.
Yeah. Well,
If you have your ducks in a row before government comes breathing down your neck.
For me. Yeah. Just a final question on this is an interest about, I always like to think, why now? Why is it the right time for a solution like Wasteless? Because this problem has been around for a long time, this food waste issue. How integral are the technology elements that you're using? AI, electronic shelf labels, like, is all that come together at the right time, or is there something else?
No, that's it. It's my shortest question for today.
Done.
There's no time to waste. No, the moment is here.
Yeah.
And the most important thing is, I think, the necessity is here.
Right.
Consumers, if you can actually attract consumers by lowering your prices by 10% or 15% baseline and still achieve the same margin, which retailer wouldn't do that? If that's a massive competitive advantage. So that moment is here. The technologies are here.
Yeah.
Most retailers are in the cloud. If they're not in the cloud, there's solutions that actually can get your on-prem landscape onto the cloud.
Mm-hmm.
Self-checkout requires, which is obviously a very big driver for companies, for retailers migrating to the cloud. So a lot of it's all heading in the right direction. And retailers have been dabbing around with markdowns themselves for a little bit, for quite a while, and they are now seeing that just about right is just not good enough, especially if it's tens of millions of dollars or hundreds of millions for the bigger retailer.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And I'm like so eager to start talking to analysts and banks to investigate, to interrogate CFOs of big listed companies. Like, how much are you actually throwing away? How much air is in your supply chain?
Yeah,
because that's where the margins are.
So we see that an area of Wasteless to go in, just other wastes in the retail world or beyond, or you just focused on this?
I think we don't want to drink from fire hydrants, and just dealing with food waste is a massive thing.
Yeah.
And our algorithm also is written on price elasticity, which is highest on fresh food.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of work to be done there, and then obviously you can expand that. But I think our expansion would not be in other verticals, but to actually leverage the item level data further upstream and downstream, meaning incentivize loyalty programs, incentivize people on certain dates, or understanding more about the granular data of consumption. Yeah. And the one that I'm particularly fond of is using insights into freshness on the shelves to improve your replenishment and your distribution and your production.
Yeah.
And start making the food chain much more demand driven than the supply chain it is at the moment.
Yeah.
And Mossa Consultancy wrote a report already 5 years ago where they're saying that this is a $600 billion opportunity. So there's
plenty enough to do.
I like. And we've got our work cut out for us.
Yeah.
And retailers, they're smart and they're driven, and I think we have a lot to offer.
Yeah, nice. So that actually is a good move on to the next question. Is about I know you've obviously got these great projects going on. You're working with some big retailers in the US and the Europe. What's the big goal for 24? Is it really just to get those rolled out, or more retailers involved? What's the big goal?
It would be to do a couple of them really well.
Right. Execution.
So it's like really execution is really nail it. And we have a crowbar, and now really start fine tuning it and increasing performance.
Yeah.
Reducing labor, increasing margins, revenues before we're gonna expand. Because I don't want to spread myself so thin.
Yeah.
It's so we have a couple of retailers that we're really that are really on board, and the efforts to convince someone that is not really ready to get on board is not worth it. This
was more about maximizing the relationships you had today, and
yes, and leveraging that.
Yeah.
So we were working with a big listed European retailer, where if we do it right, we can really help them execute their strategy that's way beyond sustainability. It's really about increasing the private label share in their stores, driving down prices, improving supply chains, paying fairer prices to producers.
Yeah.
So that's when if you have one or two large customers that you can do that with, that's already massive.
Yeah.
And well, you may have noticed in the past 20 minutes that or so that I do love to talk about this.
Yeah. Passionate.
So, and I want to talk about successes, not just about projections.
Yeah.
So, because once you have success, then it will change the industry.
Uh-huh.
It will drive other solutions as well to really exert themselves, and for retailers to step up to the plate.
Yeah.
And that's really what we're doing this for. We want to be a profitable business, but really we want to change the food value chain, and which has to be changed through data.
Sure.
Because this is a huge industry and it's data poor.
Yeah. Yeah, I completely agree. So moving on a little bit beyond the solution, more into the actual macro market. Obviously, in the last couple of years, we've had inflation, we've had COVID, we've had the high retail theft, all these kind of macro trends. What do you think are going to be the big challenges for retailers in this year or next?
Yeah, because it changes over the years. If you would have asked a retail expert 5 years ago, they would have been very wary of e-commerce. Probably. So you have to move into e-commerce, and that's kind of flattened out. I think the big trends are the trends that are at the convergence of consumer and policy. So, for example, sustainability is now at a point where you can't get away with just business as usual, because there's all these accounting rules and legal rules. So those kind of become drivers to reassess and redesign your entire supply chain. So I think that leveraging data from farm to fork will be a very big change, and it can help you manage all those other fads or fashions or trends. You can understand a lot better what's happening with alternative proteins if you actually understand which consumers are buying what in what stores, etc.
Yeah.
Doesn't make sense to present alternative proteins in a store in a poor part of rural Germany just because you have to have it in the assortment. It doesn't make sense. It may be demographic, it may be something else, it may be taste, it may be, but you have to understand that. And the fact that the food system lacks granular data, lacks data sharing. I think that's really that's going to be a big change over the next 5 years.
Very interesting. So that's kind of the challenges for retailers. What about retail tech providers like yourselves, like us? So what do you think the challenges that we need to overcome essentially over the next few years?
Pro value. I think that's the only thing that you have to really do for the customer,
Sure,
and the retailer, is to prove value. So whether it's speed and like faster checkouts, or a more pleasant experience, or better pricing, or more tasty products, or easier nutrition on the table. It will always be about value. And I think that's probably commonplace. I don't think anyone will be shocked to hear that. But the problem of a lot of technology providers is that we are too in love with our own solution to actually see where the real value is.
Yeah.
Not every innovation is a good innovation. Not every innovation is a timely one, and not all of them are actually necessary. So value is something that you bring, short term or midterm. But retailers, they want to be the center of your food experience over the next 20, 50 years.
Sure.
So that's really, as a technology provider, that what you have to think of, not just a solution in the here and now, but actually help them in a longer path.
Yeah.
And we've had a couple of conversations with CEOs of big retailers that really opened up the kimono to a certain extent, where they said what their bigger strategy was and how data would be contributing to that, and then where to speak from the waste perspective, how we can uniquely get data on freshness in a profitable way into the system that can then be leveraged.
Yeah.
So, and it's not just the value to the retailer; it's also the value to its consumer.
Yeah.
And because that's really one of the things that the retailer gets on bed for in the morning, is to
serve my customers.
Exactly, to have to put healthy foods at the table of a lot of people that are you make people you really change people's lives if you give them a better grocery shopping experience.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's great. It's coming to the end here. Is there any other topics you feel that are key that we might have missed out on? Some things that you're interested in potentially that they haven't discussed?
Well, not really. I mean, the most important element, I think, in technology is that there's loads of reasons not to do it. There's loads of there's always priorities, and there's always a really full agenda. But you have to also, as a retailer, contribute a bit of time and energy and mental bandwidth to no regret measures. You have to try a couple of, you have to investigate a couple of avenues.
Yeah.
Especially if there are no regrets, so to get new experiences, you have to also get out of your comfort zone a little bit occasionally.
Yeah.
And if you manage to risk well, then innovation and doing things that you haven't done before yet can be very beneficial.
Yeah.
So I think it's important to exert yourself, to push the boundaries, not to, and especially if it's no regret.
Yeah, makes sense. Love it. Okay, with every interview, we've been closing off with a fun question at the end, just because we're kind of crowdsourcing here.
Fun question? Is someone's going to phone in?
No, fun. Hopefully. Obviously, we're at a trade show. There's a lot of freebies, a lot of swag, as I would call it, free gifts. I'm sure you've been to many trade shows.
Yeah.
What's your favorite ever freebie at a trade show?
The Apple Vision Pro.
What?
Yeah, no, I never got it. That would be announced.
That would be your favorite. All right, yeah, no, that's a...
I first my favorite hand expression. It's actually the stuff that I have two girls at home, two daughters, and they're 13. So the stuff that makes them light up.
Yes.
So sometimes it's like a pen that turns into a tree, or it's something like that.
Yeah.
And actually, one of the things that really made their eyes light up was a Spanish innovation. I was at this food innovation thing in Valencia. And it was a plant-based sweetener.
Oh,
From a plant somewhere in Africa, and it was a grain like the size of a grain of salt.
was it stevia? No.
No, it was.
Oh,
I don't even. It was not stevia. No, it was
Okay.
really novel, and it was the size of a grain of salt, and you would ingest it, then eat a lemon, and it would taste sweet.
Really?
And like something like that can actually, fight off obesity and still give a very pleasurable, tasty experience. That's really, they were amazed. I mean, I had them bite the lemon first to make it went like this, gave them that grain of plant,
Yeah.
and they did it again, and it completely changed the way their palates work. So
I want to try it.
that was a really, really cool.
Find the name. I want to try it. Well, thanks, David. That was awesome. Thank you so much. Great guest. Good luck with everything with Wasteless, and have a good show.
It was wonderful being here. And as you know, there's no time to waste. So let's work together, all of us in the retail industry, to actually bring happier faces with a healthier food industry that's repaired and benefiting all of us.
Well,
Thank you very much.
right. Thank you.